Hey guys, welcome in to everybody who has joined up for our Logical webinar. We are going to give all of our attendees 1 or 2 more minutes to join, and then we will begin. All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kevin Hughes. I'm an account director here at Logical Media Group, and I will be moderating the panel today. And on behalf of the entire agency, I just want to thank all of you for giving your personal time to attend this webinar. We hope you're finding us in good health and hopefully with optimism for the future of your business. Optimism is going to be a recurring theme throughout the course of our time together today. Logical, like everybody else, has obviously felt the pain of this pandemic crisis, and events like these are open to the public to give us an opportunity to support our community in the ways that we can. We have no interest, obviously, in diminishing the difficulty that most companies are currently experiencing, but rather we would like to shine a light today on the opportunities that are currently presenting themselves for our clients as we enter this concept of what is a new normal in digital marketing. We believe that some of these massive changes we're witnessing in the e-commerce space are going to be positive, and hopefully this webinar can leave you feeling more prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that we're going to talk about. So with that being said, I would like to introduce those of you who may not be familiar to Logical Media Group. We are a full-service digital agency, marketing agency, founded in 2006 by our CEO, Chris O'Neill. Logical's original core competency was in generating qualified website traffic through search engine marketing with specialization in PPC or pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO. Since that time, we've been fortunate enough to make the Inc. 5000 list for 5 consecutive years, designating us as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. In addition to serving as one of the Chicago's premier web design specialists, we now have an expertise and actually specific teams tailored toward our other online channels, such as Amazon, which we'll be discussing here today, social media marketing, email marketing, display advertising, and conversion rate optimization. Today's panelists are 2 of our brightest digital marketers that we have here at Logical Media Group. They represent 2 very different perspectives from what is ultimately a really complicated platform. Nat Almirel is the head of our Amazon advertising strategy team, and he's also a team lead here at Logical. He's been with us for nearly 5 years. Welcome, Nat.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be here.
And as I introduce Craig Sear, I do want to mention that we're going to talk a lot today about our clients being unafraid to continue to spend and advertise during the COVID crisis. And I think it's important for Logical to practice what we preach in that capacity. We hired Craig at the onset of the COVID crisis precisely because of his experience with launching brands on Amazon and building value on the organic side of the platform as an e-commerce manager with a couple of different companies around the Midwest. So Craig, we're obviously really happy to have you and welcome into the webinar.
Thank you very much. Excited to be a part of the team and work with the amazing clients that we've been able to work with so far.
Great. So throughout the course of the webinar today, if you have any questions, I would invite you to enter those into the Q&A portion of your screen there at the bottom. You are welcome to submit those anonymously, and we have set aside some time for anyone to submit questions and for our team to answer them. And just as a brief overview of our topics today, we essentially want to speak to three different things. The changes that are occurring within the e-commerce community due to the COVID-19 pandemic, how we're working with our clients specifically to capitalize on the market shift, and ultimately why we think this idea of a new normal might actually be a good thing for everybody. And so I want to dive right in to our first topic, which is the changing nature of consumer behavior and industry insights. And Craig, I'll start with you. There's a lot of companies who have been left to wonder whether or not their products are going to be considered essential. And honestly, what even constitutes as essential? What changes do you see coming in the definition of essential products? And what can brands who are unsure of what to do prepare for either scenario?
Yeah, so COVID has really impacted really what Amazon and the government has deemed essential to Americans and even the world. So unfortunately, we're at the mercy of what those two, specifically for Amazon, are determining essential and non-essential goods. It's really impacted sales in many categories in both a positive and negative way. And some of these categories will be changed forever. One that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds because it happens almost on a daily basis is the grocery category. We've seen a massive increase in shoppers on the grocery category. But these other non-essential categories and even essential categories, ones that have been prioritized and deprioritized by Amazon, will likely go back to similar levels. Some will be greater, some will be less. And as consumer shopping behavior becomes more prevalent in the United States and people become more comfortable with continued online shopping, we'll see a wide variety of category changes over the next couple of months, 6, 12, 18 months, really, of what's deemed essential and not essential. For that essential category, again, it's more of the grocery category side of things, as well as home office, things like webcams. This stay and work from home over the last couple of months has really made those items essential. And then the non-essential ones, have really been deprioritized by Amazon, and some sellers are feeling the impact of that. When it comes to shopping behavior, we're seeing obviously a lot more orders when it comes to online shopping due to the number of increased eyeballs and the time involved in at home and for shopping for products, both on Amazon and other platforms, including some of our clients' websites. We're also seeing a shift from when it comes to desktop versus mobile, which is kind of the opposite of what we've seen over the last 3 to 5 years. There's been a lot more mobile traffic up until this point, but because people are working from home and using their laptop or a desktop, that has really increased the shopping behavior more to the desktop platform, which is something that we're keeping in mind as an agency when creating ads and creating content, and also something that our clients are keeping in mind, and we're reminding them as they're creating content for their own websites, is to keep that desktop focus. Consumers are constantly feeling more and more comfortable with shopping online in these essential categories. And we talked briefly just a moment ago about the grocery category. Just a quick data point. March year over year, so 2019 to 2020, we've seen an 85% increase in order count. This shows us that the U.S. has the capability to grow the grocery shopping category. And also means that brands and sellers need to be aware of this particular trend and position themselves accordingly, as this will likely become the new normal for many Americans moving forward, as they move past COVID and into a new normal.
Yeah, Craig, it's really exciting to consider the idea that categories that historically have been non-players in the digital marketing space, because of this, could potentially open up a whole new area of opportunity to grow as a e-commerce seller. So that's something that we're excited about, and we are keeping certainly in mind for our clients. One of the most frequent pain points for our clients specifically has been the uncertainty around supply chain and fulfillment. What options do companies who currently probably feel up in the air be considering about what's out there?
Yeah, so when we talk about Amazon specifically, we're really looking at two different fulfillment options, and that's FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, and FBM, Fulfillment by Merchant. But I do want to touch a little bit on the supply chain of aspect before we talk about those two options that are available to sellers and vendors. We've seen a lot of supply chain disruptions across the globe with factory shutdown, in Asia and South America. Those products coming in, from those ports in combination with Chinese New Year is kind of the perfect storm. So this really does impact more the FBA side of things. Because the inventory, the lead time that's necessary to get it in to those warehouses is approximately 5 to 7 days. So you may be seeing a little bit longer lead time there. And then, understanding the expiration, those items with expiration dates, whether that's a grocery category or anything manufactured that does have an expiration date to it. Keeping on top of that inventory and understanding that those do need to be removed 30 days prior to that expiration date to comply with Amazon's regulations. As we look at FBA versus FBM, it's important to understand if your category is essential versus non-essential. And those essential categories are probably okay when it comes to FBA, just because Amazon is fulfilling those as fast as they possibly can. But we have seen a historic shift from FBA into FBM so that those non-essential categories can take control over their shipments and therefore their payments and maintain their sales and customer satisfaction. So if you have been impacted in a negative way when it comes to FBA, you may want to consider FBM or Fulfilled by Merchant. It's something to consider. You can always go back and forth between the two. And as Amazon reprioritizes these essential and non-essential categories, you can reprioritize your marketing efforts, accordingly on Amazon. And also look at efforts outside of Amazon and focusing on website SEO and ad campaigns and other options to reach current and new customers. If you have seen a dip in sales and only have the FBA option available to you.
As companies are working to shore up their distribution process, there are certain pitfalls that you specifically help our clients be on the lookout for. And a term that may be unfamiliar to some here would be retail arbitrage. Can you just briefly explain what that is and how we help our clients defend themselves from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So retail arbitrage in its simplest form, the easiest way is to kind of give an example. So if somebody goes to a larger retailer and finds something on clearance or finds something that might be on sale at a deep discount, they may buy one to a handful of those items, bring them back to their house, list them on Amazon on that particular listing page if it's available, or create their own listing page, and then resell them for a small profit. What's happening with Amazon is that they've taken a more proactive approach when it comes to protecting brands on their marketplace, which is the introduction of Amazon Brand Registry, which allows brands that have a registered trademark with USPTO to file claims against these particular sellers. And why you would want to do that is more of a brand protection as well as price protection. So not knowing where these sellers have received the product, where they've purchased it, whether it's counterfeit, whether it's expired, maybe they're listing it as new when it really could be used, is all protecting yourself and your brand on the world's largest marketplace. So really a powerful tool for brands to take advantage of. And filing claims is relatively easy. It's something that we've helped clients guide them through the process, and created some great resources to help understand how it's beneficial to them.
Thanks, Craig. So we do want to offer some specific insight on what we've seen from our clients since COVID began. So we have pulled some data, and we're going to stick to product categories here and obviously not name any specific clients, although for e-commerce, it has been mostly good news. And Nat, I'm going to jump to you now. You've put together some data surrounding the results our e-commerce clients have seen since the pandemic started. These are obviously, for the most part, pretty good results. What factors are you attributing to that?
Well, Kevin, I'm not a doctor, but speculatively, I'm guessing that a lot of this has come because shopping offline and the difficulties of shopping offline have increased. So, masks are required. If you're in Illinois, you have to have a mask to go shopping in some big box retailers. Or if you're like me, you forget it, then you have to drive back home, you get distracted, and then get back there, forget your mask again. And then ultimately, when you do remember your mask, you purchase the wrong product. But in addition to that, you can wait in line. Retailers can be out of stock. They can have different hours, anything like that. And so, ultimately, what is not speculative about that, though, is that, like you said, we've seen very significant increases in online purchases across all of our e-commerce verticals. And some of those reaching double, triple, quadruple digit increases in purchases and revenue. The other big thing that we've seen is a pretty substantial reduction in average order value. And this is going to be related a little bit more to e-commerce specific websites. So not necessarily Amazon, but particular clients' e-commerce websites. And usually what you'll see is an average order value is going to be very close to whatever purchase amount qualifies for free shipping. But again, during the past few months, I think shoppers have just been more willing than previously to kind of pay a little bit extra for shipping, wait a little bit longer, or even if you have kind of a account setup process, willing to take the time to kind of go through with that. And part of that too, I think, we've seen some changes in terms of Amazon shipping times. Some products that were eligible for Prime previously or had free shipping, you'll have to pay a little bit extra in shipping like that. So just kind of the overall atmosphere has been a little bit more relaxed on the part of the consumer. Those expectations have gotten a little bit more relaxed than previously. But really, I think ultimately the big takeaway from this is more people are shopping online, and they're willing to put up with some inconveniences of doing so. So it's a really good time to capture market share, defend your position, or both.
So Nat, at the onset of the pandemic, a lot of our clients reached out to us pretty quickly, asking for advice on what they should be doing. And your team essentially sat down and wrote out a blueprint for adapting to the changes in the marketplace and how to not only survive, but thrive. So what's the reasoning behind some of these immediate opportunities that you guys came up with in that list?
Really, kind of what we've been keeping an eye on most for our Amazon clients during this time is just looking for any trends or fluctuations in overall impressions, changes in search queries, whether branded, non-branded, or competitor, any fluctuations in CPCs, checking out top ranking products within the client's product categories. And ultimately, we've been really fortunate that our Amazon advertising clients have pretty much stuck to, or in some cases even increased their budgets during this time, even when they've significantly reduced budget or suspended entirely their advertising efforts elsewhere. So for those who have been taking advantage of the surge, really we've been focusing on capturing as much market share as possible. And a lot of that is kind of through conquesting campaigns. And that's not only for specific competitors in keyword and product targeting campaigns, but also in just general category targeting campaigns. And you can refine those too by, say, the price of the item or star reviews, things like that. So it's really been trying to make the most of this, the existing market share that's out there, taking advantage of those who are dialing back on their e-commerce budgets, and even in the non-branded space, looking for any new trends that may pop up with potential new people coming to Amazon or new purchasers coming to Amazon. The other things that we've been doing is just reviewing bid placements. And if you ever pull a placement report on Amazon for your advertising campaigns, you can check out how your ads perform in top of page results, rest of page, and product detail pages. And just being very consistent in checking out any fluctuations or differences in that, and bidding more aggressively. You can bid up to 900% of your original bid on those top performing placements. And this is really not too difficult to do. And there may be a lot of opportunities out there that were not previously there. And of course, you can do this with easily keeping within your ACOS or even getting a better ACOS, even if you're bidding more for a particular placement. And then just in general, where there's been an influx of new impressions, again, just converting search terms from either automatic campaigns or some broad keyword targets and products as well from automatic campaigns, and adding them as manual targets. And really just kind of further building out more precisely targeted campaigns. So an increased granularity, and not just within campaigns, but also ad groups. So really wherever you've seen kind of a boost in searches and clicks, that really is kind of an indication that there are certainly some advantages or opportunities to take advantage of.
Yeah, and Nat, I would mention for those of you, and just to use like the grocery category as an example, if your customer base has typically always shopped your product or your category in store, it's worth remembering that they are probably now shopping online for the very first time. So as you consider investing in non-branded opportunities, if you consider investing in conquesting your competitors, just remind yourself that there are millions of shoppers who are brand comparing online for the very first time. So it's really essential, if you have the means and it makes sense for you to invest, to go ahead and do so right now while it makes sense. And Nat, I mean, I think part of the reality is that some brands have not pulled back and are not feeling strapped financially, whereas others are looking at a reduced or limited budget. What are some of the more cost-effective optimizations that you've been able to implement?
Yeah, and this applies, both to those who want to invest more and are investing more at this time, and also those who may be forced to pull back. And I think really the easiest way to make a buck and spend very little is to just keep your branded campaigns running. It's good for everyone, and just like we've done. Even if you're not willing to invest or unable to invest in conquesting campaigns, it's likely that at least a few of your competitors are. And so it's a very good idea to just defend your brand if you can't justify growing it. So I would definitely recommend continuing to run those branded campaigns. And again, they're going to perform very well. You're going to get high returns on them, and it's not going to cost as much as, say, a conquesting or even non-branded campaign. If you don't have really any advertising budget, I think it's probably a good time to revisit your storefront. If you haven't made any updates to your storefront in a while, it's going to be very good to just kind of check back, make sure that your pages and products listed on there are going to align with what your current catalog is offering. Kevin, if you don't mind jumping to the next, thank you. And I think just in general too, if you are in that process of kind of scaling back your budgets, I think take a look at your automatic campaigns. It's always a good idea to do this, but especially if you have a diminished advertising budget, it's a good idea to recheck your automatic campaigns. Those are the ones for which you have the least control over your targets. And so they're always good to review if you start to see that ACOS creep up a little bit. And you can also drill down in automatic campaigns to check out some subcategories of those targets. Amazon does offer a little bit of segmentation within automatic campaigns. So you'll see close match and loose match for keywords, and complements and substitutes for products. And usually it's the substitutes and loose match that tend to be the big spenders. Substitutes is essentially competitors, and loose match are things that are tangentially related to your product. So always good to just kind of do a review of that if you have to dial back. And just in general, if your overall account or any individual campaign is reaching an ACOS of about 30% or above, it's probably a good one to jump into and see if you can make any refinements, either in terms of budget or bid adjustments.
Thanks, Matt. For those attending who might leave the webinar inspired to begin marketing on Amazon, there's obviously just a lot of things to consider. And The $1 million question that all three of us, Nat, Craig, and I, entertain has to do with budget. But Craig, I want to start with you right now and just ask, what are the pros and cons of entering the Amazon marketplace for the first time in 2020?
Yeah, really valid question, Kevin. The answer that I would give is, online shopping isn't going away anytime soon, and neither is the world's largest online retailer, which is Amazon. There's a reason that a little over 60% of shoppers start their product search on Amazon, and it's because they expect it to be there, the product itself. They expect it to be there, and they trust the platform. They trust the reviews, they trust the transaction, and it's about as easy a shopping experience as it gets. If I was a betting man, I would guess that 60% number that I just mentioned is far greater for the 112 million Prime members in the US, which is about 1/3 of America. I would venture to say that those 112 million Prime members start their product search on Amazon. I bet it's far greater than 60%. So I believe the biggest advantage of being on this particular platform is going to be product and brand awareness. And with that awareness comes exposure, and then comes sales. So if you already have the first two in spades, I'd say being on Amazon would be and should be an easy decision for the team if you understand all the nuances, which is something that we can help with. The downside of Amazon, if there is one, is the commitment in terms of time and financial resources. But there are some great resources out there to help you get started or even manage part or all of your business on Amazon. In my opinion, and the team here, the pros definitely outweigh the cons when it comes to should you be on Amazon or not.
And Nat, again, this is a question that we face, if not weekly, then monthly for most of our clients. Is number one, should they be spending at all? Should they be spending less during the COVID pandemic? And then in general, for our prospects and clients who want to start out, they just want to know how much they need to start with. So, like, how do you go about recommending that, and how do you go about projecting return on that spend?
Really, I think it's a very opportune time for spending on Amazon, and I think just in general for forecasting an appropriate budget to start for somebody who's never advertised on it before. One of the most common mistakes that we see among Amazon advertisers when they come to us or when we're doing an audit is really there's not much in the way of segmentation among their campaigns. And I think just in general as a baseline or guideline, I think segmenting your campaigns in terms of branded, non-branded, and automatic with one SKU per campaign is a good place to start. And overall sponsored product ads, which should make up the bulk of your account, those CPCs tend to be, or cost per clicks tend to be a little bit closer to what you would expect or see from a display campaign on Google Ads. So it's usually like a few cents or so, typically below $1. It can depend, but usually that's pretty standard. And you'll probably spend around $30 per day or so. So I'd say about $1,000 per SKU is a good starting point for an average Amazon client who's very new to Amazon. And you can initially expect around a $3 ROAS for that. Don't hold me to it, but that's just a general benchmark for it. Really, it breaks down in terms of what your goals are, what your expected return is, the number of SKUs, how long you've been on Amazon, and there's a lot of other factors that go into that. And when we onboard new Amazon clients, we cover all those and more, just to really determine the optimal budget and its distribution. But for those entirely new to Amazon, that's a decent benchmark to start. Again, I would reemphasize that it's a very opportune time to start on Amazon and advertise on Amazon. We can cover a few more points in terms of why, but definitely there's a lot of market share to be captured during this time, and certainly, as we've discussed previously, a pretty big influx of online shoppers.
Thanks, Matt. So we do want to offer specific examples where possible. Now that we discussed some of the broader ideas for capitalizing, let's talk about like what the two of you are doing just daily to help our clients take advantage of what is a historic market shift. And Craig, I'm going to start with you here. Optimizing listings has been sort of on the forefront of your service lately, and it might seem uninteresting or unimportant to some. Why is it interesting, and how do you go about doing it for our clients on a daily basis?
Yeah, so this is actually a really cost-effective way to increase your product ranking, therefore increase your sales, and just have a better overall shopping experience for consumers. So the first one that I'll touch on is the title. One of the very first things that consumers see, aside from the main image, it's a couple important takeaways when it comes to the title. So that's something you can implement right away on your own listings. Is the title gets truncated on the search results page, something around 70 characters. And so understanding that, making sure that your title length is appropriate. We recommend anywhere between 70 to 150 characters, just because the brain can only process so much information all at once, and making sure that they're just relevant titles. One thing to keep in mind is that Amazon's search engine, codenamed A9, is it thinks more like a human than it does a machine. So this old school technique of keyword stuffing really is not necessary and almost prohibitive to product rankings and sales. So we definitely stay away from keyword stuffing in all three of these next categories that I'm talking about. So with regards to bullet points, key thing here, use them all. You've got 5 for the seller and 10 for the vendor. Recommend using every single one that you possibly can. The very first bullet point should be your key feature, your key benefit, and recommend keeping the character count anywhere between 110 to 200 characters. Again, no need for a bunch of keyword stuffing here. No, you don't need to have a bunch of repetitive keywords, but relevant information to the consumer is very important in these bullet points. And then the description. So the description is what we call below the fold. You've got a 2,000 character limit, and our recommendation is anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 characters. This is a great place to include additional product information, especially for more technical products, whether it's a computer or something that has electronics or circuitry in it. Or brand information is a fantastic option to include down here in the description area, as well as frequently asked questions. There is some formatting available to sellers here, such as line breaks, and something that we can also help guide clients through. So if there's feedback that you're wanting on your product listings, I'm happy to have a conversation and provide feedback on your ASINs.
Cool. So in terms of some of the creative services that we offer to help our clients make immediate impact on their brands, we can talk about enhanced brand content, otherwise known as A+ content, in your Amazon storefront. This is probably my first initial feedback to most of our new clients right out of the gate, is making immediate changes to the EBC and the storefront for 2 reasons. This is honestly really inexpensive real estate. Craig mentioned earlier, just the amount of search volume that Amazon is getting. It's a low funnel platform that's turning into more of a shop comparison because of the fact people are starting to shop online for new categories. So given that, there's no reason to scrimp on these 2 services. We offer these to help differentiate our clients from their competitors. It offers a more sophisticated online shopping experience. And we actually have 2 clients that have been willing to let us show off some of our design work that we've made for them, and able to make some of these examples make a little more sense. So this is A+ content. And right out of the gate, we want to prioritize our best-selling SKUs for A+ content. And for those of you who shop online, or on Amazon rather, this is usually what you see after you've scrolled down through the listing and you've kind of gotten through that sea of text, and you come to a bit of information that says from the manufacturer, where it looks like infographic and photos. They're usually very high quality photos. When people sign up with us for A+ content, we always recommend taking their highest selling SKU and doing that first. The reason being is that the ultimate purpose of A+ content is to increase conversion rate. And so we want to increase conversion rate for the #1 seller, irregardless, because that can make such a dramatic difference that it might change your strategy for how you want to move forward with the rest of your SKUs. Adding descriptive text that addresses frequently asked questions. Any brand manager that's attending today is probably pretty familiar with the first 1 to 2 questions that every new person being introduced to their brand has. Almost every product has their own limit, especially, for certain categories, there might be 3 or 4 involving ingredients or materials used to make the product itself. Go ahead and get out in front of that, add that descriptive text in your A+ content, and just get it out of the way so you don't have to spend a lot of your time answering those questions. The color and the uniform design, this is a big thing, and this is one of the reasons that I think our creative team has been as successful as they have in terms of helping our clients. Amazon will provide you, as a business, they will provide you a grid-based system in which to build your own A+ content in your own storefront. It's very simple. Amazon has made it very user-friendly. The problem is it doesn't look quite as good as what probably exists on your current website. So there's no reason, again, to consider Amazon as anything less than a much less expensive second website to represent your brand. And you wouldn't want people who come to your website to feel like they're not getting a uniform design. They're not getting a brand kit that represents the voice of what you're trying to convey as a product. So there's no reason to feel that way about Amazon as well. Like put the time and the resource in, because the amount of volume you could eventually have landing on your product listing or on the storefront is very significant and ultimately can be very impactful. From a storefront, this is another thing that our creative team has put together and that we can use as an example here. Craig mentioned earlier, there is a trend back towards desktop, but that doesn't mean that we don't take into consideration a mobile-friendly design. So we want to make sure that every single image, graphic, text box, what have you, can be easily compatible and formatable into a mobile-friendly device. And then we use banners and images to break up more text-heavy sections. These are not things that are absolutely necessary, but aesthetically they are very pleasing. And again, it offers that sophisticated shopping experience that we think that most of our clients are looking for. Shipping costs might be the least sexy, but ultimately most relevant topic we cover here today. And Nat, I want to start with you on this, because I know you've been working with some of our clients. Who should be considering at this point offering free shipping, and what factors would go into that consideration?
Well, Kevin, I have to disagree with you. I think it's very sexy. But I think just in general, those businesses that have seen a pretty substantial boost in traffic to their e-commerce website during this time, I think would be prime, so to speak, for conducting an experiment with either free or discounted shipping. And especially those who have a hybrid strategy of selling both on Amazon and on an e-commerce website. You can always take a look at your average order value in Google Analytics, and obviously check it out on Amazon as well. It's essentially like your revenue divided by total number of transactions. And if you start to see a significantly lower average order value on Amazon than you typically see on your e-commerce website, a lot of times what we find is that it's usually a prohibitive shipping cost attributed to that. And again, if you have the traffic to conduct an experiment, I think it's definitely a good time to test that and see if there's any additional lift you can get in purchases or revenue from your e-commerce website with either lowering that free shipping threshold, or just offering free shipping altogether. And it doesn't have to be just a overall net negative either. There are certainly ways that you can add value to that, such as having an email sign up to qualify. In turn, you can use that for an email campaign, which we can help you with, or even have a subscribe and save option.
And Craig, you spend a lot of your time talking with our clients around handling time, shipping time. What are the factors that should be included if you are considering going with free shipping?
Yeah, so it's important to know what Amazon, what their expectation is when it comes to handling, and their default on the seller side is 2 to 3 days if you're doing FBM, so fulfilled by merchant. As clients navigate the marketplace right now and try to get orders out the door, they may have been impacted themselves or the 3PL. So taking a look at what that lead time is currently for them, and then updating their items accordingly. We've seen updates anywhere between 4 and 5 days really help out the seller side of things, and then it's not negatively impacting their seller score, which is to their benefit. And then we also recommend looking at leveraging one shipping service if possible. So if you've got like items that are of similar size, leveraging one UPS, FedEx, or USPS will help decrease your costs, increase your efficiencies, if possible in that realm.
Thanks, Greg. So in terms of immediate opportunities to make a difference amid COVID crisis, we have worked with a new Amazon beta, Amazon Attribution. It's a relatively new beta, and it's one that's been extremely effective for our clients who've chosen to participate. It is essentially the practice of sending traffic from platforms like Google Ads or Facebook Ads to Amazon, where attribution tags that are provided by Amazon measure performance, pretty much just in the way of like page views and click-throughs, and then ultimately orders and purchases. So we did put together some case studies to essentially just walk you through the results that our clients have seen, and the results clearly speak for themselves here. So just going left to right, we are looking at increases in sales from Google Ads. And again, these are Google Ads driving traffic to an Amazon landing page. Then we have increase in purchases from paid search campaigns, increase in click-through rate, and then a decrease in the average cost per click for each individual Google Ads campaign. For me personally, the means are almost more interesting than the end here. For those familiar with Google Ads, basically each keyword and ad that we put inside of one of those campaigns are assigned a quality score by Google based on ad and landing page relevance. Essentially, Google wants to ensure that they're sending one of their searchers to a landing page that accurately reflects the search intention. Makes sense because they are consumer focused. What attribution does is replaces the company website URL, your personal website in this instance, with an Amazon landing page. It can either be a product listing page itself or a page within the storefront. And by doing that, we were able to harness the domain authority of Amazon, which for some keywords raised the quality score all the way up. This is a 1 to 10 scale from say a 4 to around a 9. We were not even entirely sure going into it what that impact would look like, but essentially what happened once that change occurred is a massive influx of quality impressions. And that's a massive influx of impressions in general, but essentially a quality impression is Google feeling like they have enough trust in your site and your brand to serve your ad to someone that's likely to convert. So the quality impressions lead to, in my opinion, the most interesting stat on the slide for both of our clients here is the decrease in cost per click, because what that essentially means is that these two clients are paying significantly less money for exponentially more revenue and sales. That's extremely difficult to find, as any good marketer knows, and clearly our clients were thrilled. The biggest obstacle for us to convince our clients to sign up for this was, and you're probably thinking this right now at home, I don't want to drive traffic away from my own personal website. I don't want to rob my own pocket of money from existing clients that already know my brand, especially when on average, most businesses are going to make less profit margin on Amazon than they are on their site. So our response to that was essentially to, we encourage our clients to observe their least effective non-branded keywords. So go into any campaign and figure out the keywords that they were spending in Google Ads, they were spending money on and not converting on. And that's where we recommended that they try. And that has eventually led almost every client we've encouraged to try this to move from having their toe dipped in the water of Amazon attribution to being fully engaged and really end up investing a lot of their media budget on any given month. These are the ways that Amazon is multiple in the way that it can help grow a brand. And these are the kinds of things that we are researching on. Half of the Amazon battle is just doing research to understand these betas, to understand what's required to get our clients signed up for these betas. So we actually go through the process of working with Amazon to get our clients signed up, and then we walk through and we test and we come back and we provide analysis back to our clients, and we make decisions together on how to move forward. So if you are wondering what the immediate steps you can take are, and you feel like Amazon advertising specifically isn't for you, that doesn't mean you can't use the power of Amazon and you can't harness the power of Amazon to help grow your online business. Outside of Amazon, there's a variety of ways to be a digital marketer and to move your product. Clearly, this is the topic of our webinar today. But organic and paid Google Shopping, getting involved with the Google Shopping Network, it is enormously powerful. It's still Google, and it still is a great way to move products. Paid search and paid social, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, anything that you feel like is relevant and appropriate to your specific product and your brand, absolutely encouraged. SEO and content marketing is more important than ever. Nat and I talked earlier about the importance of investing now for a payoff in Q4. If you are in a category where all of your competitors are pulling back, all of them are choosing for one reason or another to not continue to move their brand forward, now is the time for you to be aggressive. And part of that is participating in things like SEO and content marketing. Email marketing is a juggernaut. Anyone who participates in email marketing understands that's juggernaut. I usually tell my e-commerce clients that the priority of revenue in my mind by year 2 of our service should be Amazon and then email marketing right behind that. It is an absolute powerhouse. And if you feel like you're not getting enough out of your email marketing, then it might be time to look into who's doing your creative, what strategies are you using, are you using the appropriate automations, things like that. And then finally, conversion rate optimization, which is essentially just making the existing content on your site more focused toward either purchases or conversions, whichever one is applicable to you and your brand. So I want to conclude before we get into Q&A. I just want Craig and Nat to basically offer a brief synopsis of what they feel like the bright side of the new normal is. We talked about how optimism is going to be the enduring theme of this webinar, and we really believe that. So I'll start with you, Craig, and I just want, if you can, list a few of the reasons why you feel like there is a bright side of this new normal, whether it's a new strategy or a change in consumer behavior or whatever is imprinted upon you at this point.
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me is opportunity. You know, we're at a very interesting time to capture nearly the entire United States, almost 350 million Americans, you know, at any given time. It's kind of unprecedented. Everybody's stay at home, where they're in front of a computer or a phone or a tablet. And most shopping has been done online over the last 3 months. So the opportunity here is massive. We're obviously going to see changes in categories over the next 6, 12, 18 months. But that doesn't mean that that online shopping is going anywhere. In fact, it's probably just going to go back to what we call a new normal, but it's going to be greater than what it was a year ago. And with you know, huge shopping days coming up, we're excited to see what that means for our clients and their sales and their growth as a company, and you know, excited to support them in their efforts.
Thanks, Craig. Nat?
Yeah, I think just the one thing to remember is, just kidding. No, I would say that even though I think consumers have gotten a little bit more tolerant during this time, it definitely means that businesses should not get complacent. And I think it's really should be the opposite. The value that you build with more targeted advertising, better user experience, better content, more perks is going to pay off a lot more when, excuse me, with customers, advocates, converts, kind of when things go back to normal. And I think too, specifically for Amazon, one thing to consider is that Prime Day has been pushed back to, I believe September is kind of the current rumor. And that's really going to make late Q3 and Q4 advertising on Amazon especially competitive. And it also means that there's really not going to be a big summer event for Amazon. So kind of the next few months, I think, are going to be especially critical, you know, for those who are currently advertising on Amazon, or especially those who are looking to advertise on Amazon, that it's really going to be probably the best time and opportunity for them to start building their presence on Amazon.
Great, thanks, Nat. Yeah, and I would echo. I mean, I think, and please, by all means, if you have questions for your business about Amazon Prime Day or anything related to Amazon Prime, please feel free to reach out to us at an email address I'll give you here shortly, and we're happy to talk through strategy with you and send over some content that we have to help you prepare for that. So there certainly is a tremendous bright side here. There's certainly a tremendous upside for what's possible for digital marketers, and the thing is, it's okay to acknowledge and it's okay to admit that it's confusing and at times a little bit scary, because it is absolutely our job to make that not the case. So we are constantly evolving the way we do research and the way we learn about our industry to make sure that we can provide you guys with that same sense of security and understanding of what we're talking about. So I will, I'm going to move forward into our Q&A. This first one is probably going to be for Craig to start out with, although I'll let Nat hop in if he has any input. Jack asked, do you have any suggestions on how to manage price matching? Our company sells through Vendor Central, FBA, and Amazon price matches Costco.com, SamsClub.com, et cetera, and our products eventually crap out due to unprofitability. That's a really good question, and Craig, I'll let you hop in on that.
Yeah, so this it can dovetail into retail arbitrage a little bit because those the two retailers that you mentioned are they're bulk buyers when it comes to the consumer base side of things. So pricing tends to be a little more favorable on the consumer side when shopping in store versus online. The biggest way to combat this is going to be how you manage your contracts with those retailers. Pricing is very important to brand reputation and making sure that you don't have brand or pricing degradation in the marketplace. So not only pricing with those two retailers, but also on the Vendor Central side. Trying to make sure that everybody is on an equal playing field as close as possible is going to help, Amazon and both your retail side of things kind of, work itself out. Amazon's pricing scrubbers and spiders, they go out and search major retailers like the ones you mentioned, as well as many others. So they'll ultimately lose money sometimes when it comes to products on their marketplace just to get the sale and then drive the price back up after the pricing kind of fixed itself. But from a vendor aspect, it's easiest done on the contract side of things when it comes to working with these retailers.
Thanks, Craig. And just for everybody's record out there, I have moved on to this final slide that we have, not to indicate that we are quite done yet, but that sales@logicalmediagroup.com email address is where you're able to reach out to our business development team, who will not only be able to answer any questions you have about working with Logical, but it can also potentially redirect you to any one of the panelists that are on here today or someone more appropriate to answer specific questions you may have. So if one of our Q&A topics is particularly interesting or relevant to you, feel free to reach directly out to them and they will make sure that you get to the right place. So another question can come in from an anonymous asker. If starting on Amazon, should you begin by listing all of your products, SKUs on the platform, or just begin initially with a select top few sellers? What are your thoughts on that, Nat?
I would first take a look at kind of how broad their catalog is, and also overall what the prices are. So if the prices are more or less the same, then I think, yeah, it makes sense to kind of go with the selection of those top priority SKUs. If there is a pretty wide variance in degree of like those price range, I think it's probably better to start with a sampling of that, just because, if you're just going to advertise for, say, anything that's going to bring in like $50 or so, you may not see as high a return come in initially from that. So I think it's good to kind of spread things out a little bit. It also depends too, like whether or not there are parent and children ASINs. So if those are all kind of grouped together, if there's like not too much in the way of variation on that. For example, if you're selling t-shirts and you have a number of different colors, even if you want to prioritize, say, like the red t-shirt, ultimately, if you set up like an advertising campaign, just by virtue of the shopper being able to select between the different colors, you're probably going to end up advertising for all of those as well. So those are good things to keep in mind for that. But I'd say, again, if there is some variance in terms of pricing, it probably is good to go with some campaigns that address each of those. But if you're pretty dead set or have a pretty consistent pricing across your product lines, or even brands or sub-brands, then there shouldn't be too much harm in kind of focusing on priority SKUs.
Thanks, Nat. Craig, we had a question come in that I know that you're extremely familiar with talking about at this point. What is your expert view on being active on Vendor or Seller Central, or both at the same time, and has this changed in the last 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, so my stance on it hasn't changed all that much in the last 2 or 3 months, but You know, it's our recommendation generally to be active on both. A blended strategy it can be fun and also very, very profitable when operating on the Amazon platform in both particular avenues. You're able to leverage one against the other and maintain control over your brand and the products and the pricing at a far greater level than you are when you're just operating in one particular selling avenue. So stance hasn't changed, but can easily take a look at an account and make sure that we provide the best recommendation, whether that's moving forward with either one or both.
Okay, great. And then Craig, this will probably stay with you too. Does Amazon have any restrictions on who can advertise on their platform?
To my knowledge, no. As long as you're a seller or a vendor, you should be able to advertise on Amazon's platform.
I will say, just jumping in here for that, keep in mind that your products are priced competitively. There can be some restrictions to eligibility of ads to show. One nice thing, though, about sponsored product ads is if that product is not eligible to show a sponsored product ad, that ad will not run. So there's really not a huge amount of harm in you wasting ad spend for something that you can't make a sale for.
Thanks, Matt. We did get a question that's an interesting one. Someone asked anonymously, what are the costs to selling on Amazon, and how do I justify that additional cost? And they're not even considering advertising costs. And that's honestly a really relevant question that we get, and I know that our business development team gets all the time, is the idea of factoring in the cost of like having an agency management fee incorporated in your budget. And I know a lot of our clients insist that when we provide reporting that includes return on ad spend, they would like for us to factor those types of numbers in, which is totally fine. We're happy to do that. It is essentially the cost of doing business, and the justification for Amazon is really very simple. Is that this is an extremely complicated and thorny platform that is not necessarily mastered by anyone. One of the things that I tell our prospects and our clients all the time is that anyone out there who is promising to you that they are an Amazon expert is most likely lying directly to your face. We at Logical try to be very transparent about the things that we feel like we do have good mastery of, but also the things that we feel like are a gray area. And that's mostly because Amazon as a company is still evolving. They're not to the point where Google was or is now rather, or Facebook. So there's a tremendous amount of learning involved in working with this platform and understanding this platform. And that's something that we are heavily invested in. So if you're trying to understand justifying the cost of advertising on Amazon, there are places in digital marketing where someone who has the diligence and patience to go on to Google and look up how to do this, they can probably teach themselves how to do a lot of similar things that ad agencies all across the country are doing. Amazon is not really one of those, because we have to spend so much time with continuing education efforts and reaching out to Amazon and working with different contacts we have over there to make sure that we fully understand how to best serve ourselves and best serve our clients ultimately. Cool. So I think that was the wrap of our Q&A session. I think we're about 1 minute away from being at time. Again, on behalf of everybody at Logical Media Group, I just want to thank all of our attendees who took time out of their schedule to show up today, and hopefully you were able to gain some valuable insight from it. We do strongly encourage you to reach out to our business development team, again, at sales@logicalmediagroup.com. With any questions, and please include requests to speak with any of our specialists about something that's going on with your business, and we'll be happy to set that up for you. And then finally, I want to thank Nat and Craig, our two expert panelists who took their time to be here today as well. We appreciate you guys, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Everybody have a great Wednesday and the rest of your week.
Thanks.